Hello everyone. I haven't uploaded a single YouTube video last 2 weeks, and this was because I was sick. So I decided to take care of myself, and because of that, there were no recordings to upload in YouTube video related to my content. All right. But now I am back on track, so let's proceed to the discussion for today. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to have a practice video for converting a general form of a circle to its standard form and converting a given standard form of a circle into its general form. All right. I do believe I said that last time. Like last time, like before we end the I think that's part two, if I'm correct. Like because the last discussion it's all about converting standard form to general form, and I mentioned that we're going to have a practice video before we proceed to other section or other sub lessons to know. All right. So enough talking. Let's proceed here. All right. So let's convert the following into standard form. So we have this one, x squared plus y squared minus 40 is equal to 0. Now, as I previously discussed this, converting a general form to standard form, if you have x squared and y squared and a given constant term, then it's easy for you to convert them into standard form. But the very first thing that you have to take a look is the coefficient of x squared and y squared. Here you see we have x squared and y squared. So if you see x squared and y squared, that means that the coefficient of them is 1 because x squared is just the same as 1x squared or 1 times x squared, and y squared is just the same as 1y squared or 1 times y squared. So if you see this, x squared, y squared, what are you going to do? So here, if you see x squared, y squared, all right, like the coefficient itself is 1, here's what you're going to do. First, all you need to do is group these two, leave it there, just group them, while the constant term shall be transposed to the right. So we will have on the left side x squared plus y squared. Then the constant to the right, we're going to transpose it there. You will have is equal to 40. And that's your answer. That's it. Okay, this is by far the easiest. All right. Now, how about this one? You see, we have x squared, y squared, and then we have a constant term, which is 360. All right. Now, if you're going to take a look, yes, x squared, y squared exists, constant term exists, but you see, the coefficient of x squared and y squared is negative 6, negative 6 x squared and negative 6 y squared. So what are we going to do if the coefficient of x squared and y squared is not 1? So what we're going to do here is first, we're going to divide the equation by negative 6. All right? So with that being said, we will have negative 6 as our denominator on both sides. All right. As I said, again, if the coefficient of x squared and y squared is not 1, you have to divide the equation, both sides, by its coefficient. So in this case, we're going to divide the equation by negative 6. So let's start on the left. Negative 6x squared divided by negative 6, you will have positive x squared. Negative 6y squared divided by negative 6, you will have plus y squared. Then here, positive 360 divided by negative 60, you will get negative 60, so minus 60. Then on the right, 0 divided by negative 6 is just simply as 0, right? Okay, now what's next? Then what we're going to do here is what we did here on the previous problem. So here we have x squared, y squared. The coefficient became 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to group them together while the constant term shall be transposed to the right. So as a result, you will have a final answer of x squared plus y squared is equal to 60. And that is your final answer. right? We're good to go, right? X squared plus y squared is equal to 60. Okay, so now we're going to proceed to the next problem. Here, if you're going to observe carefully, we have x squared, y squared, and then they have their own partner. Like if we have x squared, then they have x. We have y squared, then they have y. And we also have a given constant term, which is -1. So here we discuss the second case, like how would you convert a given general form where x squared and y squared do not only exist, or what I'm trying to say is that not only x squared, y squared, and if possible, constant term exists, but there are other terms that exist as well, and these are x and y, or at least one of them. So what are we going to do? So here, what we're going to do first is take a look at the coefficient. Coefficient of what? The x squared and y squared. All right. So here, you see the coefficient of x squared and y squared is 1. All right. You will know that the coefficient of x squared and y squared is 1 if they look like that. Yeah, if they look like that, like there's no other numbers or negative sign beside these two variables, they just exist as a x squared and y squared. So if they look like this, that means that their coefficient is +1 or 1 rather. So what are we going to do? First, we will group all the terms that have variables, all right? While the constant term shall be transposed to the right. So you see, these four terms, x squared, y squared, -8, -8x plus 18y, you see, these four terms, they have variables, right? So we're just going to leave it there. But for the constant term, however, which is -1, you have to transpose it to the right. Hence, you will have x squared plus y squared minus 8x plus 18y is equal to 1. All right, that's it. Now, the second thing we're going to do is on the left side, where all terms are that have variables are grouped together, you're going to group all x's and y's, x and y's. So here we have x squared and -8x. So just group them together. You will have x squared minus 8x. Then we have y squared and 18y. So you will have plus y squared plus 18y is equal to 1. So what are we going to do afterwards? Now, for the third step is we're going to do completing the square, all right? So remember that in completing the square, you need two terms. One, a variable that is in squared, okay? Just like, for example, your given variable is x. So first, you have a variable that is in squared, all right? And then there is no other coefficient except 1. Basically, first things first, you have x squared. Then another thing you should have is a term that has a variable of x. All right? And then the coefficient here is b, right? Where your b should not be equal to 0. All right? Basically, if you have x squared, right? No other coefficient except 1, and then you have x, all right, as a second term, where the coefficient of x, not x squared, x is not 0, then there you will do completing the square. So you see here we have x squared and we have -8x. Okay, we will use that. Now here, how about for the y? Okay, first we have the squared variable, y squared. And then we have a y variable, right? So here, in this case, we will still do completing the square. All right, so let's proceed. Let's do it one by one. Let's start first with the x. Okay, so let's proceed here. So here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get the coefficient of the x, not x for the x, all right? The x. So here, excuse me, I'll wait for a while. Oh, wait, hold on, let me just charge my laptop. I found out that my battery is less than 40%, so I have to charge it. Anyway, let's go back. So yeah, we have negative 8, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to divide negative 8 by 2, then we will square it, right? So let's do it slowly. Negative 8 divided by 2, we have negative 4 squared. The negative 4 squared will give you positive 16, all right? Then we will do the same thing for the y, all right? For the y squared plus 18y. So, similarly, we're going to get the coefficient of your y 18. So you will have 18 divided by 2, then squared it. 18 divided by 2 will give you 9, and squaring 9 will give you 81 as a result. Okay, so now we have these results. So what are we going to do? So what we're going to do now is the results we have. Okay, let's start first with 16. We're going to put plus 16 minus 16 beside negative x. And for 81, we're going to put plus 81 minus 81 beside 18y. All right. So as a result, you will have uh x squared minus 8x. Wait, hold on. It may not be visible. Wait, let me just put it down. There we go. Yeah, x squared minus 8x. Then 16, right? So you will have plus 16 minus 16. Then here we will have plus y squared plus 18y. Wait, hold on. Let me just check. Anyway, good. So here you will have plus 81 minus 81 and is equal to 1. Oh, wait. Sorry. Equal to 1. There we go. Okay, so now what? Now, the negative constant terms, which are negative 16 and negative 81, you're going to transpose it to the right. So the overall result, you will have x squared minus 8x plus 16 plus y squared plus 18y plus 81, all right, is equal to 1 plus 16 plus 81. That's it. Okay, so this is the, yeah, this is like the third step overall, all right? Then now, what are we going to do? So for your last step or the fourth step, simplify. So on the right, what you're going to do here is you're going to add them. So 1 plus 16 plus 81, let me just separate them into simple terms. Like let me break them down. 10 plus 8, that's 90, right? So 90 here. So 1 plus 1, 2. 2 plus 6, 8. So 90 plus 8, 98. Let me take a look, okay? Maybe my intuition is wrong. Just making sure. 1 plus 16 plus 81. Yes, it's in fact 98. Okay, so what's next? All right, so now we're done simplifying the right side. On the left, we have to simplify this. You see, these two, they became trinomial. And remember, a trinomial is basically, it consists of three terms, the squared, the x, and then a constant term. So trinomial. In fact, they are called now as the PST. So both of them are PST, perfect square trinomial. And remember that PST can be converted into squared binomial. So meaning we have to convert each of these trinomials into its squared binomial. All right. So here's the technique. Let's start first with the x, okay, which is this one. All you need to do is you put uh, both sides of parenthesis and you put squared. And here, since its variable is x, you will put x here. Now, what would be the number beside x? So let's go back here. All right, let's go back on this side where we are on the process of completing the square. Remember that we divide negative 8 by 2, right? If you're going to take a look here. So the result is negative 4. So what would be the result after dividing by 2? That would be the number you're going to put it here. So you will have x minus 4. All right, that's it. Now you will do the same thing for the y. So you will have, similarly speaking, a parenthesis and then there's a squared. And since the variable here is y, you will put y here. So what are we going to do? Now for the y, you're going to go back again here. But since it's a y, you're going to focus on this part. All right. So here, remember that we have 18, right? So here you're going to divide 18 by 2, which is 9. So here, what would be the result after dividing 18 by 2? That would be the number beside your y. Hence, you will have plus 9. It's plus 9 because it's positive 9. And therefore, this is your answer, right? This is your answer. The square of x minus 4 plus the square of y plus 9 is equal to 98. All right? Don't worry, we have more exercises or practice problems, all right? Okay, so we're done discussing this. Let's proceed to the next practice problem. How about this one? Now, you may be thinking, okay, we have x squared, y squared, okay, and then we have a third term, okay? So here, maybe we will do second case. Because remember second case, right? No, sorry. First case, right? Remember first case, right? First case is basically x squared, y squared, and a constant term, if you remember that. But remember, I told you again, for the first case, right? It You will use this case if there is x squared, y squared, and a constant term. Take a look the problem closely. So you have x squared and y squared, but you have a y term, okay? Y term, which is positive 5y. So in this case, first case is not applicable, but rather the second case. All right. So meaning the steps on the second case is just the same application to what we're going to do in this case. All right. So let's solve this problem. Okay. The first step again is to take a look the coefficient of your x squared and y squared. Now, if you're going to take a look closely, the coefficient of your x squared and y squared is negative 5. Therefore, if there exists a coefficient of x squared and y squared as a different number other than 1, you have to what? Divide the equation by its coefficient. Or, another way to say it, we will divide negative 5 both sides of the equation, right? So let's start on the left. Negative 5x squared divided by negative 5, you will get positive x squared. Negative 5y squared divided by negative 5 will give you positive y squared. And lastly, positive 5y divided by negative 5y will give you negative y. And on the right side, 0 divided by negative 5 will give you exactly 0. So, okay, now we're good to go. What are we going to do now? So we will apply first step. Because we have x squared and y squared, like there is no other coefficient of it aside from 1, we will do the steps what we did here. All right? So the first step is what? If you remember, oh wait, let's make it second step, all right? So meaning the next step is what? We're going to group all the terms that have variables on one side. So here, in this case, since all terms here have variables and there's no constant term, we will leave it be. Or we will leave it that way. So we're done with the next step. Now, another step is what? On the left side of the equation where all terms that have variables are grouped together, you're going to what? Group all the x's and y's. Group all x and y's. Now take a look. It seems like it's already grouped. We have x squared, the lonely one. Then we have y squared, which it has a partner, which is negative y. So here, since they're already grouped, so let's leave it be that way. All right. Then the next step is what? Do completing the square. Now, I told you earlier that for you to do completing the square, what you need or what are the requirements? First, you must have a squared variable. And the coefficient of the squared variable is always 1 or it looks like this. And next, it must have a partner. Okay? If we have x squared, then we must have bx, where your b should not be equal to 0. Basically, there exists x variable. Now, on this case, we have only x squared. So, should we do completing the square? No, we're not going to do completing the square. Instead, we're going to leave it be. On the other hand, y squared minus y. Here we will do completing the square. Why? Because we have a squared term where the coefficient is 1 and we have its partner which is just simply as y. All right. So in this case, we will do completing the square for y squared minus y. All right. So with that in mind, let's do it. So here we have negative y. Okay. And just like what we did in the previous problem, what we did here in terms of completing the square, we get the coefficient of y, we divide it by 2, and we square it, right? So that is what we're going to do here, but we have negative y. So what is the coefficient of negative y? The coefficient of negative y is negative 1 because negative y is just the same as negative 1y. They're just the same. Therefore, negative y is the same as negative 1y. All right? So, what are we going to do? So first, we're going to get the coefficient of your y, which is negative 1. Okay? So negative 1. Then we divide it by 2 and we square it. So here, 1 is not divisible by 2. So we're just going to leave it that way. All right? Then, what we're going to do now is we're going to square them. So the square of negative 1 half is just simply as 1/4. All right? So what now? So now that we have 1/4, so meaning we're going to put plus 1/4 minus 1/4 beside negative y. So we will have x squared plus y squared minus y plus 1/4 minus 1/4 is equal to 0. All right. Then what's next? Now, the negative constant term, which is this one, the negative 1/4, you're going to put it on the right side. So as a result, you will have x squared plus y squared minus y plus 1/4 is equal to 1/4. Then what are we going to do? We simplify both sides. So here, on the right side, we have only 1/4 as the given constant term. So we're just going to leave it that way. I just leave it that way. I don't touch it, just leave it that way. Right? Then on the left side, we have x squared here. So we're just going to copy x squared. But for here, this one, since it became PST or perfect square trinomial, we must convert it into its squared binomial. So by how? So you will put parenthesis on both sides, parenthesis, two parentheses basically, then squared. And here, since you have y as your variable, you're going to put y here. And what will be the partner of y? We're going to go back again here in the process of completing the square. Remember that we divide negative 1 by 2, in which it became negative 1 half as a result. So again, what would be the result of dividing it by 2? That would be your partner of your y. All right? So since we have negative 1 half, therefore we will have negative minus 1 half here. So therefore, this is the standard form of your uh, given general form. That is the answer. All right. So yeah, that's it. All right, we're good to go. Now we have other practice problems. Don't worry. All right. We have this one. This one may seem complicated if you're going to take a look because we have x squared, we have y squared, and take a look. The same coefficient. It's one fourth, but you see it's fraction. So oh my God, it's fraction. So of course, when it's a fraction, it may be a bit complicated at least. But don't worry, the process are still the same, all right? Then here we have 8x 9y. And if you're going to take a look, there is no constant term. So what would be the case here? First case or second case? The answer is still the second case. All right? Second case exists if there exists either x, y, or both of them. Okay? So here, what are we going to do? So the first step again is to take a look the coefficient of your x squared and y squared. So here we have one fourth. So it's not one, but one fourth. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to divide both sides by one fourth. Okay. So let's do it slowly. One fourth, let's start on the left. Okay. One fourth divided by x squared, one fourth x squared divided by one fourth is just simply as x squared. One fourth y squared divided by one fourth is y squared. 8x divided by one fourth, all right, this would be 32x. All right. If you're wondering how I got 32x, right? I have 8x divided by one fourth. You see, this is a fraction overall, but a complicated one. So we must simplify this one. So how to simplify this complicated fraction? Here's what we're going to do, all right? So you see, there is a rule here where, for example, you have A all over B all over C all over D, where you see both sides of the fraction, the numerator and the denominator, they are both fractions. So what are we going to do? So first, you copy the numerator, which is A all over B. Then times the denominator, but the positions are switch. So meaning instead of C all over D, we have D all over C. Then you multiply them together. A times D is AD. B times C is BC. All right? So here, you see, we have 8x all over 1/4. So can we still apply this rule? Yes, we can. All right? All we need to do is first copy the numerator, which is 8x, times the denominator, which is one fourth, but the positions should be switch. So we will have 4 all over 1. All right. And remember that if you're going to multiply a whole term to a fraction, you will multiply it to the numerator. Okay. Not on the denominator. Okay. No, no. On the numerator. So 8x times 4, you will get 32x all over 1. And 32x all over 1 is just the same as 32x. So hence, you have 32x as a result, right? So that's it. Okay, let me erase this one. You can pass backward a bit if you want uh, if you want to hear my explanation again, right, on how I got 32x. Okay? The next plus 9y divided by 1/4. Okay, so the result here is 36y. So if you're going to ask me how, so we have 9y divided by 1/4. The same process. Copy the numerator, 9y, times the denominator, but the positions are switch. So you have 4 all over 1. 9 times 4, 36 y all over 1. But again, 36y all over 1 is just the same as 36y. So you have positive 36y as a result. Okay, so we're good. Now, on the right side, 0 divided by 1/4 is still 0. Remember, if you're going to divide a 0 by any number except 0, of course, you will get exactly 0. So 0 divided by 1/4 is 0. Okay, we're good. So now what are we going to do? Now the next step is, okay, group all terms that have variables on one side. Okay? Then the constant term, you're going to transpose it to the right. Now, if you're going to take a look, we have all terms here that have variables, and there's no constant term. So just leave it be. Leave it that way. All right. Next step, we will what? On the left side, where all terms that have variables, we will group all the x's and y's. Okay, x and y's. So here we have x squared plus 32x plus y squared plus 36y is equal to 0. That's it. Okay. Then what's the next step? After you group all the x's and y's, do completing the square. And remember, again, when you do completing the square, again, there must exist a squared variable. And the coefficient of it should be only 1. And there, of course, should exist a partner, which is a variable that is not in squared. Okay? And the b should not, of course, not be equal to 0. Right? So here, we have x squared and has a partner of x, 32x. We will do completing the square for x. For the y, we have y squared, 36y. All right? Y squared, and then it has a partner of y, which is 36y. Then we will do completing the square. So both of them, we will do completing the square. But let's do it slowly. All right? So here, let's start first with the x. So here, what we're going to do, we get the coefficient of the x. So we have 32. Then what are we going to do after we get 32? We divide it by 2 and we square it. 32 divided by 2 is simply 16. Then we will square 16, which I do believe it's a big number. Let me just take a look. 256. We will have 256 as a result. Now for the y, we will do the same thing. Okay? We get the coefficient of your y, which is 36. So the same thing, we divide 36 by 2, then we square it. 36 divided by 2, I do believe that's 18. Am I right? Sorry, just making sure. 36 divided by 2. Yes, 18. Then we're going to square it. So 18 squared will give you hmm, 324. All right, 324. That's it. Okay, so now what? What are we going to do afterwards? So here, what we're going to do afterwards is what? We are going to have for the for the x, where the result here is 256. We're going to have plus 256 minus 256 beside 32x, while for the 324, you're going to have plus 324 minus 324 beside 36y. Okay? So with that, we will have x squared plus 32x plus 256 minus 256, then plus y squared plus 36y. I have no space here. Okay, but I can just shrink this one. All right, let make it that way. All right. Then minus plus plus 324 minus 324 then is equal to 0. Okay, that's it. Now what are we going to do? Now here we the negative constant terms, which are negative 256 and negative 324, you're going to put it on the right side of the equation. So as a result, we have x squared plus 32x plus 256 plus y squared plus 36y plus 324 is equal to, here we will have 256 plus 324. All right. Then last step, we simplify both sides. On the right, all we need to do is just add them. So 256 plus 324. So you will get exactly 580. All right. Then on the left side, these two polynomials are now your PST or perfect square trinomial. So remember, for the perfect square trinomial, we can convert it to its squared binomial. So how? Okay. Let's start first with the x. For here, all we need to do is put parenthesis squared. And here, since we have x variable, so we're going to put x here. So what's the next step? Now we're going to find its partner. So by how? Just look back again here, okay? Remember, we divide 32 by 2, in which we have 16. So remember again, what will be the result after you divide the number by 2? That would be the partner of your x, which is 16. So you will have plus 16. It's plus because it's positive, all right? Plus here, for the y, we will do the same thing. We have two parentheses squared, and here we will put y since the variable given here is y. Then to find its partner, say the same thing, you go here or you go here. Remember, you divide 36 by 2 in which you have 18. So that is what you're going to put beside y. So you will have plus 18. And that is your final answer. That's it. Okay, we're good to go. And I do believe this is the last part of convert practice problem about converting general form to standard form. All right. So yeah, that's it. Now, I think we have the next part. But before we proceed to the next part, I suggest you should take a break, all right? Uh I should have split this into two videos, but since it's an overall practice video, I decided to just keep it that way. Like, let's finish this throughout. All right. I suggest you should take a break for, I do believe for 10 minutes or 5 minutes. All right. 5 minutes, I think. I think that would be much better. Or 10 if you want to. Then come back here. All right. So pause this video for 5 to 10 minutes. Then let's come back. All right. Okay. So since you're done resting, all right, which I assume that you rested for 5 to 10 minutes. Let's go back. Now here, let's convert the following into general form, which is I do believe this is much easier than the previous problems we solved. So here we have x squared plus y squared is equal to 8. Okay, this is like first case, right? We have x squared, y squared, and a constant term. If you see this, what are we going to do? Just simply put the constant term to the left and group it together with x squared and y squared. So here we will have x squared plus y squared minus 8 is equal to 0. All right? And that's your answer. Yeah, that's it, basically. Make sure that x squared and y squared should be on the first order. Like they are like the first place. All right? Then a constant term shall be put on the last order. All right? So yeah, that's it. All right? Let's have another example. We have this one. X squared plus y squared is equal to square root of 6. Now you see this one, it's square root of 6. Is this still a constant term? Yes, it's still a constant term. It still doesn't change the fact that just because it has a square root sign, it doesn't necessarily mean it is a term that has a variable. Okay, it would be a term that has a variable if there exists a variable. But here in this case, it has a square root, so that implies that it is still a constant term, all right? Nothing changes. So what are we going to do? Just group them together here. Okay, so we will have x squared plus y squared minus square root of 6 is equal to 0. And we're good to go. And again, make sure that the order should be x squared, y squared first, then the last part would be the constant term, right? So yeah, that's the answer. Okay. Now, how about this one? You see this is different because in compared it before, we have x squared, y squared. This one, we have the square of x plus 5 plus the square of y minus 6 is equal to 8. So you see this. So what are we going to do? First, you must expand. Okay, expand these two. Okay, because both of them are in squared binomial. I mean, they are squared binomial, of course. We have to expand them. What I mean by expand, we must remove this parenthesis. By how? So there are two ways. One is by FOIL method. All right. So we have x plus 5 squared here, right? So here, this is just the same as x plus 5 times x plus 5. The exponent tells you how many times that the base should be multiplied, if that's correct. Or let's just say the exponent tells you how many base are there. Like for example, if I have 2 squared, that means you have 2 and 2. So two twos, then you multiply them. So the same implication and application as well in this case, we have squared of x plus 5. So meaning there are 2 x plus 5. So here and here. Wait, is it visible? Oh, wait, sorry. Right, there you go. Yeah, so yeah, x squared means you have two x plus 5s. X plus 5, x plus 5. Then you multiply them together. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, of course. Then you do full method. But for me, I'm not gonna do full method, but rather an algebraic technique, which is, I do believe, much better. But again, it's up to you. If you want to know what's full method, I actually discussed that in the video about converting standard form to general form. Okay, you can watch that. But for me, uh, I'm gonna do the algebraic technique. This technique is useful if you have a squared binomial. This is an example of squared binomial. It's like you have two terms inside the parentheses and then there's a squared. So here's the steps. Here are the steps, I mean. First step is you square the first term. All right, let me put this on the no, on the right side here so that we can have space. Anyway, yeah, square the first term. So the first term is basically on the left side of parentheses. So you square x. So you have x squared. That's it. All right. For second step, 2 times the first term times the second term. The second term, that's basically the right side of your parenthesis, which is 5. So in here, we will have 2 times the first term x times the second term 5. So 2 times x, 2x times 5, 10x. That's it. And lastly, you have the third step, which is square the second term. So the second term again is basically on the right side, so which is 5. So you square 5. The square of 5 is simply 25. That's it. So what are we going to do now? We add them together. So in here, you will have from the square of x plus 5 to x squared plus 10x plus 25. All right. That is the expansion form for the square of x plus 5. Now let's do the same thing for the y, all right? Plus, okay, let's expand the square of y minus 6. The steps are just simply the same, okay? It's a squared binomial, so the same technique will be used, okay? So yes, we have y minus 6. So the first term here is on the left. Okay, that's the first term. And here, that is your second term, which is negative 6. Okay, square the first term. So the first term here is y. So squaring y will give you y squared. Okay, next, the second step is 2 times the first term, which is your y, times the second term, which is your negative 6. So 2 times y, 2y times negative 6 will give you negative 12y, right? Then lastly, square the second term, which is 6. So square 6 will give you 36. Then you add them together. So here you will get y squared plus negative 12y plus 36 is equal to 8. All right. Now, if you're going to observe, right, yeah, of course, you're going to add them, right? But you see, 12y is negative. So if you're going to add a negative term, what happened? This will change into minus 12y. All right. And if you're asking me why it became minus 12y, because remember, if we have a plus negative b, you see, these two, imagine like they are multiplying, like plus times negative. Okay. So if you're going to multiply a positive and negative, the answer is negative. So you have a negative b or a minus b. So you have y squared minus 12y plus 36. Anyway, here they are all expanded, so there is no parenthesis. So what are we going to do now? Now, the constant term here, which is 8, we put it here. Alright, so let me just copy the other terms. So x squared plus 10x plus 25 plus y squared minus 12y plus 36 minus 8 is equal to 0. Then what's next? Then we combine similar terms or like terms. So here, x squared, 10x, y squared, and negative 12y, they do not have like terms. Okay, there are no terms that exist. What do you call it? There are no terms that exist as x squared, x, y squared, and y other than these four. So we're just going to leave it them. Alright, let's just leave it be. However, for 25, 36, and negative 8, these three are similar or like terms because three of them are constant terms. So you can combine them together. All right. So let's add them together. Okay. 25 plus 36 minus 8. 25 plus 36 minus 8. That will give you 53. That will give you 53. So let me just copy the other terms. X squared plus 10x plus y squared minus 12y plus 53. That's it. Okay. Now, the last step is you have to arrange them from highest exponent to the lowest exponent. Okay. So here, the x squared and y squared should be placed on the first. So we have x squared plus y squared. Then, the next place should be the one that have variables, like 10x and negative 12y. So plus 10x minus 12y. All right. Then lastly, the one that should be on the last place is the constant term itself, which is 53. And that is your final answer. That's it. That is your final answer. All right. It's now in general form. Okay. Now let's proceed to the next problem, which is here. Okay. So this one, the same steps. No changes, the same steps. All right, the same steps. Okay, all we need to do is what? Expand the squared binomials. We have to expand these two. Okay, so same technique. Let's start first with x minus 10. Okay, so first step. Oh, wait, hold on. Is it visible? Oh, wait, visible. First step is we square the first term. Okay, oh no, let's focus here. Let's focus here on the x minus 10. We square the first term. So squaring first term will give you x squared. So this is the result, x squared. All right. Next, we have the second term. The second term here is we have 2 times the first term times the second term. So here, 2 times the first term, which is x, times the second term, which is on the right side of the parenthesis, negative 10. So 2 times x, 2x times negative 10, negative 20x. That's it. And lastly, for the third step is you will have the square of the second term. So you will square negative 10. The square of negative 10 will give you 100, right? And as a result, we're going to add them together. We will have, wait, is that correct? But anyway, basically, finally just add them together. So we have x squared plus negative 20x plus 100. But remember, positive, negative, what will happen? This will change into minus 20x, okay? So minus 20x, that's it. All right, that's it. Okay. So now we'll proceed to expanding the square of y plus 12. All right, this one. Square y plus 12. Same steps. Okay, same steps. Let me just erase this one. Okay, so let's proceed. So first term, okay, square the first term. So square y, that will give you y squared. Here on the second step, 2 times the first term, y, times the second term, 12. So 2 times y, 2y times 12, 24y. Okay, then last step is you're going to square the second term, which is 12. Squared, of course. I mean 12, yeah. So the square of 12 is 144. So add them together will give you y squared plus 24y plus 144 is equal to 22. Okay, everything is expanded. Okay, there's no parenthesis. Everything is expanded. So what are we going to do now? Now we group the constant term, which is 22, to the left. This one. So as a result, we have x squared minus 20x plus 100 plus y squared plus 24y plus 144 minus 22 is equal to 0. That's it. Okay, then what's next? Combine similar terms. So as usual, in combining similar terms, x squared, negative 20x, y squared, and 24y, they are lonely because there are no other terms that exist as x squared, x, y squared, and y aside from this four. So we're just going to leave it be. However, for the constant terms, we're going to combine them because there are three of them. There are three constant terms, so meaning they're not lonely, so we can add them together. So 100 plus, wait, 100 plus 144 minus 22, you will get an answer of 222 if you're going to add them. So as a result, okay, let me just copy the other terms. X squared minus 20x plus y squared plus 24y. Add the constant terms will give you positive 222 is equal to 0. Then lastly, you have to what? Arrange them from highest exponent to the lowest exponent. So here we have x squared, y squared. You must put them on the first place. So you have x squared plus y squared. The next are the ones that have variables, 20x and 24y. So minus 20x plus 24y. Then the last place should be the constant term. All right, that's it. Let me check if I'm correct. 100, 144 minus 20. Okay, good, good. All right. Then now we can leave this as our final answer. That's it. Okay, that is the general form for this given standard form. All right, let me check if there are other problems. All right. Oh, there's actually another one. All right. Hmm. Actually, yeah, yeah. This is another one. The second to the last problem. All right. Before we proceed, forgive me if this is long. Okay. But let me tell you, I told you earlier that yeah, it seems like I have to separate them by segments, right? One is general form to standard form, and the other standard form to general form, right? I told you that. However, I have to compile that up into one practice video, you know? So this is useful for review material if you want to. And I did this in purpose so that we can proceed to the next video, which I do believe it's all about graphing, right? So yeah, that is all I'm going to say. So let's finish this, okay? This is the second to the last problem. So here again, yeah, there's a squared of x plus 1/2 square of y plus 3/4 is equal to what? So here, the same thing, okay? Expand these two squared binomials, okay? Let me write again the steps, okay? Let's start first to the x. So x plus 1 half squared. So what's the first step? You square the first term. So square first term will give you x squared. Okay. Second step, 2 times the first term times the second term. Okay. Second term again is to the right of the parenthesis. All right. So 2 times first term, x, times the second term, which is 1 half. 2 times x, x, times 1 half, it's x, right? 2x is 2x. 2x times 1 half, that would become 1, 1x. So the answer for that is simply x, all right? Then for the third step, oh wait, I forgot. Wait, hold on. Sorry. It's not, the first step is not visible because my camera blocked it. Right, that's it. Right? So yeah, the third step here is square the second term. So the second term is 1 half. So the square of 1 half is 1/4. Add them together will give you x squared plus x plus 1/4. All right? Plus, now we will square a square, expand y plus 3/4. Okay, let's expand this one. Okay, let me erase this. Okay, so first step, square the first term. So it's y. So we're going to square it. So this would be y squared. Second step, 2 times the first term times the second term. So first term is y. Second term is 3/4. So 2 times y, 2y, times 3/4. You will have 3 halves of y, or 3 all over 2 y, or 3y all over 2. Okay? So yeah, that's the result. If you're asking me how, forgive me if I didn't put some explanation because, yeah, I have to go direct to the point. But if you're asking me how, it's because there's like a cancellation. 2y times 3/4. 2 and 4 are both divisible by 2, right? 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So you have y times 3 halves. So you have 3 half y as a result. And yeah, that's it, right? Alright, so let's proceed. The last step, we will have second squared. Okay, square the second term. So squaring the second term will give you 9 all over 4. So we will have plus y squared plus 3 halves y plus 9 all over 4 is equal to 1. Everything is expanded. Alright, no more parentheses left. So what are we going to do now? We put 1 to the left. Okay, so let me just copy the other term. So x squared plus x plus 1/4 plus y squared plus 3 half of y plus 9/4 minus 1 is equal to 0. Then combine similar terms. Okay, again, for x squared, x, y squared, and 3 halves y, we're not going to do anything about them because they're lonely. There's no similar terms for these four terms. But for the constant terms, 1/4, 9/4, and minus 1, we're going to combine them because both of them are constant terms. So let me just copy the other terms first. X squared plus x plus y squared plus 3 half of y. Okay, then let's add these two. Now you may be thinking how, because both of them are fractions and one of them is a whole term. So what are we going to do? Let's start first with the simple one. Okay, let me just separate it. 1/4 plus 9 all over 4 minus 1. Let me start by adding the two fractions. This is easy. You know why? Because if we have two fractions and they have a similar term, or no, let's just say they are similar fractions or like fractions, you can add them together. But here's the thing, how would you know if it's a like or similar fractions? If they have the same denominator. So we have 1/4 and 9/4. Both of them have both of them have a denominator 4, so we can add them easily. So by how? Think of it this way. We have a all over b plus minus c all over b. Both of them have b as the denominator, right? So all we need to do is we add the numerators. a plus or minus c. Then we copy the denominator, b. So in this case, we have from 1 fourth plus 9 fourth, we will have 1 plus 9 all over 4. Okay? In which you will have 10 all over 4. So you have 10 all over 4 minus 1. Okay? Then what's next? Now, you see, we can simplify the fraction because you see 10 and 4 are both divisible by 2. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. So you have 5 all over 2 minus 1. But we're not done yet because we need to combine them together. And as you see, we have minus 1. So how are we going to combine them? The technique here is simple. First, you multiply the denominator to the number beside it. 2 times negative 1. You have negative 2, right? 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Then after that, you add the product, which is negative 2, to the numerator. So 5 plus negative 2. So that's the same as 5 minus 2. So you have 3. Then after that, you copy the denominator, which is 2. That's it. So meaning 1 fourth plus 9 fourth minus 1 is 3 halves. So you have plus 3 halves is equal to 0. All right? That's it. Okay? I'm gonna erase the solution here, by the way. You can just pass backward if you want to listen to my explanations. Okay? Now, the last step is we arrange the terms here from highest exponent to the lowest. So we have x squared plus y squared plus x plus 3 halves y plus 3 half is equal to 0. This is now your final answer. Okay, that's it. Or you can simplify this actually. I mean, no. Not simplify, but you can do it in another way. All right. Now, you see, if you're not a fan of fraction, like this, you have 3 halves of y and 3 half. You're not a fan of it. So what are you going to do? So if you don't want, you multiply by their denominator or LCD. So you see, we have 2 as the denominators for 3 halves of y and 3 halves, right? So if you want to remove their denominator, all we need to do is just simply multiply them both sides by 2. Let me just copy this, right? Let me put it here. All right. So, right, yeah, we have 2. Okay. So for me to remove that, we will multiply its LCD, which I do believe it's still 2. Okay. So we will multiply both sides by 2. Here's what will happen. Okay. So on the left, 2 times x squared is 2x squared. 2 times y squared is 2y squared. 2 times x, 2x. 2 times 3 halves of y. What happens that the 2 will cancel out because 2 times 3 halves of y, the 2's will be cancelled out. So you will have 3y. Okay, so plus 3y. And likewise, for multiplying 2 by 3 halves, the 2's will be cancelled. And what's left is 3. So you have plus 3. Then on the right, 2 times 0 is just 0. Then you're going to leave this as your final answer, which is for me much better. Much better for me. Okay, because this one, there's no fraction. So, okay. All right. So, yeah, this is your final answer. It's up to you. Which one do you prefer? For me, I prefer this one. I like this one. I hate fractions, personally speaking. But again, it's up to you. Okay? It's up to you. Now let's proceed to the last problem. In here, I do believe there is some analyzation or critical thinking. I do believe. But let's take a look, right? Uh, suppose we have a given general form of a circle and its standard form. Are they the same? How can we prove it if they are the same? So we have this one, okay? The general form. And according here, it has its standard form, which is this one. This is the standard form. for this. Now, are they really the same? So there are two ways. Okay? There are two ways on to prove it if they're the same. Okay? There are two ways. All right? Otherwise, they're not the same at all, you know. But improving it if they're the same, there are two ways. Okay? One of them shall be converted into standard form, or one of them shall be converted into general form. There are two ways. Let's start first with converting it into standard form. All right. So, of course, if you're going to convert something into standard form, of course, you're going to convert this one. Okay, this one. Okay. If you wish to convert something into standard form, then convert this. Okay. And make sure that the standard form for this is just the same as this one. Okay. So let's do it. First way, we convert the given general form to its standard form. And let's take a look if it's the same as the given standard form here. Okay. So we have, wait, no. Let me write it here. Okay. We have 4x squared plus 4y squared plus 20x plus 40y plus 16 is equal to 0. Okay, remember if you're going to convert this one into standard form, the first step is take a look at the coefficient of x squared and y squared. Why? Because if the coefficient is not 1, what are we going to do? Then we're going to divide the equation by its given coefficient. So in this case, you see the coefficient of x squared and y squared is not 4. So what are we going to do again? We're going to divide both sides by 4, right? So here on the left, 4x squared divided by 4 is x squared, plus 4y squared divided by 4 is y squared, plus 20x divided by 4 is 5x, and 40y divided by 4 is 10y, plus 16 divided by 4, that will give you 4. And on the right side, 0 divided by 4 is just 0. Okay? Then we proceed to the next step. The next step is we simply group all the variables that have terms that have variables, but the constant term shall be put on the right side. So we will put the constant term to the right while the terms of variable will be on this place. So let me just copy them. X squared plus y squared plus 5x plus 10 all over y is equal to negative 4. That's it. Then after that, on the left side, where all the terms that have variables are grouped together, we're going to group all the x and y's. So let's group the x. So we have x squared plus 5x. Then the y's. Y squared plus 10y. So what's the next step? We will do completing the square. Okay, so now they have x squared and a partner of x. We will do completing the square for the x squared. And lastly, we have y squared and 10y. So y squared has a partner, which is 10y. Then we will do completing the square. All right. So now let's start first with the x. How to do completing the square? First, you get the coefficient of your x, which is 5. Then we divide it by 2. Then we square it. 5 all over 2 squared. Okay, I mean 5 divided by 2, you can't divide 5 by 2 because 5 is not divisible by 2, so we're just going to leave it be. Okay, so we have 5 all over 2 instead. We're just going to leave it that way. Then we will square it, so we will have 25 all over 4. Okay, now on the right side, our right side, on the y, okay, similarly we get 10. Then we divide 10 by 2, then we square it. 10 divided by 2 is simply 5. 5, yeah, correct. Then we square 5 will give you 25. Now, what to do afterwards? So now that you have 25 all over 4, that means you're going to put plus 25 all over 4 minus 25 all over 4 besides 5x, okay? So as a result, you will have x squared plus 5x plus 25 all over 4. Oh, wait, let me just change the color. Forgive me. 25 all over 4 minus 25 all over 4. Okay? Then, similar thing to the y. We have y. Sorry, we have 25, right? So we will put plus 25 minus 25 besides 10. So we will have plus y squared plus 10y plus 25 minus 25, right? Then is equal to Then is equal to negative 4. Okay, that's it. All right. Then what's next? If you remember the next step, we're going to group all the negative constant terms. All right, negative 25 all over 4 and negative 25 to the right. So you have x squared plus 5x plus 25 all over 4 plus y squared plus 10y plus 25 is equal to negative 4 plus 25 all over 4 plus 25. Okay? Then what's next? You simplify both sides. Okay, now here, how are we going to simplify? Okay, first and foremost, let's do the easy one. Okay, which is on the right side, of course. Let's combine negative 24 and 25 together because both of them are easy to combine. Negative 4 plus 25 will give you 21, right? Am I right? 25 minus 4. Yeah, 21. Then let's add it to the fraction. 25 all over 4. The technique is the same. If you have a whole number and then a fraction beside it and you're going to add or subtract by it, the technique is still the same. Just like what we did in here, if you remember. Here in the three halves, if you remember this one. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. First, you multiply the denominator, which is 4, by the number beside it, which is 21. So 21 times 4 will give you 84, right? It's 84. Then what's next? After we divide the after we multiply 4 by 21, in which we have 84. So the product, you're going to add it to 25. So 84 plus 25, that will give you 9 plus 4, 9. 2 times 8 plus 2, 10. So 109, all right? So you have 109. Then you copy the denominator, which is 4. So 21 plus 25 all over 4 is 109 all over 4. So we're just going to copy this one. Okay. This is the result. Now, how about to the left? Okay. Now, three of them are PS3. PS3. PST, which is perfect square trinomial. So, we can convert it to its squared binomial. Okay. So, for the x, we will have squared parenthesis. So, we have x variable, so we will put x here. Okay. What would be the partner of x? Okay. We're going to go back here. The partner of x is the number when you divide it by 2 inside the square parenthesis. So you have 5 all over 2, and you can divide 5 all over 2 here, right? So just copy 5 all over 2. So you have x plus 5 all over 2. Plus, okay, for the y, the same thing. We have 2 parentheses squared. We will put y here. Then the partner of y is what's what? Inside the parenthesis squared. Okay, so we have 10 all over 2, which is 5. So we're going to put plus 5 here. All right, and with that, that is your final answer. Now let's compare our final answer to the given standard form, and let's take a look if they are in fact the same. Let me just copy this one. Okay, copy this one. Copy, paste. Okay. Now, if you're going to observe, they are in fact the same. We have x plus 5 all over 2 squared plus y plus 5 squared is equal to 109 all over 4. So therefore, it is proven that they are
in fact the same. Okay? So, to, yeah, in conclusion, they are the same. These two are the same. Okay? So that's the first method. Well, how about the second method? Second method is like, like you have a given standard form, which is this one. You're going to convert it into this. Okay? Like we're going to convert it into general form. So, should we do it? Okay? So here, yeah, I'm going to do it. Okay. But if you want to try it on your own, so be it. It's no problem. All right. Overall, again, this is a review material for you guys. All right. Okay. So let me just erase the writing here. Okay. And let's continue. All right. Don't worry. We're almost there. Okay. This is the last problem. Okay. This is the last problem. All right. So yeah, let's do the second way. Let's just say we have a given standard form and we convert it into general form. And let's take a look if it's the same as the given general form here. So the standard form here is we have what? The square of x plus 5 all over 2. And here we have plus the square of y plus 5 is equal to 109 all over 4. Okay, here's what we're going to do. So, okay, first step, you expand these two squared binomials because they are not expanded. We need to expand them. So the technique is either FOIL method or the algebraic technique. Okay? So I'm going to use the algebraic technique instead. Let's start first with the x. Okay? This one. Start here. Okay? First step is you square the first term. So what's the square of x? X squared. Remember, first term is to the left, which is left side of the parenthesis, and the second term is on the right side of the parenthesis. All right? Second step, 2 times the first term times the second term. So here, oh wait, let me take a look if my solutions are blocked. Oh, wait, never mind. All right, so here we will have 2 times the first term, x, times the second term, 5 all over 2. So 2 times x, 2x. 2x times 5 all over 2, 5x. That's the answer. Okay, because if you have 2x times 5 all over 2, the 2's are cancelled. What's left is 5 and x. So 5x. Then here we have third step, the square of the second term. So we have 5 all over 2. Square it will give you 25 all over 4. So you have x squared plus 5x plus 25 all over 4. All right. Now we will do the same thing for the y. All right, let me just put the steps here on the right side. Okay. Yeah, let's do the same thing for the right side. For the right side, for the y. Square the first term. Okay. We have y as the first term, so square it will give you y squared. Here, 2 times the first term, y times the second term, 5. So 2 times y, 2y times 5 will give you 10y. And lastly, square the last term, second term, which is 5. Square 5 will give you 25. So as a result, you have y squared plus 10y plus 25 is equal to 109 all over 4. Okay, everything is expanded. No more parentheses. We're good to go. Next step, we put the constant on the right to the left. So, I mean, from the right to the left. So we have x squared plus 5x plus 25 all over 4 plus, y squared plus 10y plus 25 minus 109 all over 4 is equal to 0. That's it. Then here, combine similar terms. But again, usually x squared, 5x, y squared, and 10y, basically those that have variables, usually they're alone. So there are no similar terms for them to be combined with. Unlike for the constant term, however, there are three of them. So we can combine these three constant terms. So let me just copy the other terms. X squared plus 5x plus y squared plus 10y. Alright, let's add them together. Okay, there are fractions. So what are we going to do? Okay, just slow it down. Okay, we have 25 all over 4 plus 25 minus 109 all over 4. For me, I'll start. doing the easy ones. Okay. These two, if you're going to combine them, it's easy. Remember, similar or like fractions. Okay. The same denominator, what are we going to do if they are the same denominator? All we need to do is just simply add the numerators. Okay, then copy the denominator below. All right, so let's combine them. So this 25 all over 4 minus 109 all over 4 will give you 25 minus 109 all over 4. All right, so let's add them together. I think 100, negative 100 plus 20, that's negative 80. All right, and 25 minus 9, that's negative 4. So 80 minus negative 80 minus 4 is negative 84. But let's take a look. I could be wrong. All right, 25 minus 109 all over 4. Wait, 25 minus 9 all over 4. Wait. Okay, I'm correct. It's negative 84. Okay, negative 84 all over 4. But you see, negative 84 can be divided by 4. Negative 84 divided by 4 is negative 21. And negative 21 plus 25 will give you 4. Am I right? just making sure. Yes. So adding them together will give you positive 4. So you have plus 4. All right? Now, what's the next step? Next step is you arrange the terms here from highest exponent to the lowest exponent. So of course, we have x squared plus y squared plus 5x plus 10y plus 4 is equal to 0. Now, it seems like we're done because we have x squared, y squared, 5x, 10y plus 4. So it's already arranged from highest exponent to the lowest exponent. So yeah, we're done. But take a look. Is it the same as this one? Well, for you, no. Why? Because if you're going to take a look, the numbers here are not the same as the numbers here given. You see? So do you think that in conclusion, the answer is it's wrong? They're not the same. It's still the same. They are actually. How though? How can we say that they are the same, even though that according to the given general form, they are not the same? It's easy. You see this, right? You see this? Okay. If they are in fact the same, okay, then what must I do? Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, there we go. So yeah, in if this is just the same as the standard, the general form of this, then what must I do? So what I will do here is, since I have coefficients of x squared and y squared as 4, then it's an implication that I must multiply this both sides by 4. Okay, both sides by 4. Again, why did I say that I have to multiply the final answer both sides by 4? Well, not only to make it the same as the general form, but it is because the coefficient here of x squared and y squared is 4. Okay? So, let's do it. We multiply both sides by 4. 4 times x squared, 4x squared. Plus 4 times y squared, 4y squared. 4 times 5x, 20x. 4 times 10y, 40y. 4 times 4, 16. And on the right side, 0 times 4 is 0. Now, let's copy this answer and let's put it here. They are in fact exactly the same. Oh, see? They are the same. So here's the trick for you. Okay, like here's the tip. If you convert it into general form and then you notice they're not the same, like, huh, according, I'm sorry. Anyway, let's go back. According here, it's 4x squared, 4y squared. But then according to my problem, it's not 4x squared, 4y squared, but instead it has x squared, y squared. So how is that even possible? How is it that they're the same? Or maybe they're not the same at all. Here's a tip, okay? If your answers are x squared, y squared, but according to the general form, it's 4x squared, 4y squared. That means you have to multiply both sides of the equation by 4, okay? Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. You have to multiply your final answer, this one, both sides by 4. And let's take a look if they are in fact the same. And when we multiply both sides by 4, what happened? It's just the same as the given general form. See? And that is all for our practice video. It's actually long, but it's good because there are some complicated problems that you need to know how to solve it. Without it, you might be in trouble, right? Might be, okay? So that is all, guys. Thank you for listening. And next video, we're going to talk about how to graph the circle if you have that given standard form or a general form, all right? So see you soon.